here. We are featuring tonight Sarah Dobie Hunt, who is a member of the board of Planting to Feed, because Jessica Westcott is unable to be here tonight. You may know that Jessica is expecting a baby very soon. We're all excited about that. We know that she is. And she couldn't be with us this evening, but we're happy to have Sarah here, who will talk about the program and give us an update on new things that may be going on since the last time Jessica was here. So welcome, Sarah. We're delighted
Thank
you're
you.
here.
Thank you, Casey. I'm very happy to be here as well. For those of you who don't know, Jess's baby is going to be named Sage, and just a few weeks now. So she's getting final preparations together, and that's why I'm here tonight. And I'm happy, very happy to be here. Planting to Feed is continuing to grow. We now have 5 refrigerators in the Wilmington area and 1 in Dover. And we've had 3 additional conversations with potential partners this summer to expand our reach even further. So Westside Health is looking to start a community refrigerator in the Sussex County region. So if that happens quickly, I would like to see it happen by the end of the year. They're hoping for an August launch date. And if that happens by the end of the year, that means we'll have refrigerators in all 3 of Delaware's counties, which I think is just amazing. There's also a partner on Market Street in Wilmington who is hoping to get permission to put a fridge on some leased land. And that would be another opportunity for those in need around that area. And then there's our last partner conversation was with I Am My Sister's Keeper, which they are in the process of starting a community center in the Hedgeville area of Wilmington. So it's another area that we're not in yet, and it's really exciting to see so many partners coming to us to just offer some guidance and assistance so that they can do what we're doing and expand the reach. Because Planting to Feed is a small organization, it's wonderful that we have so many partners who are willing to step up and take the lead for a fridge or 2 fridges. As I said, we have 5 now. I'm not sure when the last time Jessica was here, but our most recent one launched at the William Hicks Community Center. So we are still very concentrated in the east side of Wilmington, but we're at the Central Y, and we're also at Henrietta Johnson Health Center, and that's in Southbridge. And while the weather is unknown for this weekend, there is a 2nd anniversary barbecue planned for Saturday at the Henrietta Johnson fridge site. So really excited to see what comes of that. But as a partner, Westminster, we cannot do the work we do without such community support. So the fact that your group and your community is willing to step up and fill 2 refrigerators once a month makes such a difference. We're spending anywhere around $200 per refrigerator, $150 to $200 per refrigerator each week. And we're filling them to capacity, and then the next day they're empty. So all of the additional help that is provided by our community members and farmers in the area just makes our job so much more impactful. Our 2 garden sites are at capacity this year, which is incredibly exciting. We had acquired the 2nd property right around the time of COVID, and with our volunteer corps diminished, we just couldn't operate both sites to capacity. So this is the first year we're growing in almost 50 raised garden beds across the 2 sites, the one at Kingswood and the one around the corner by the prison. And we're growing everything. We have berry bushes, We have so many carrots and tomatoes and pepper plants, but we're also experimenting with okra. We've gotten requests for certain kinds of peppers, for cilantro, for different herbs and different plants that the community is looking for in the fridges. So while we are just at the start of our growing season, we've already harvested radishes, leafy greens, including spinach and kale and lettuces. We pulled up some very large beets last week, and we even had, where's my pea count? So on last Saturday, we harvested 5.5 pounds of peas, of snap peas. So that went, we had 2 or 3 containers in all 5 of the Wilmington refrigerators. So we're at the start of that, still supplementing with our community partner at the produce spot. The women there are just such wonderful people. They're providing a service in the community, and then we're able to support them by purchasing our supplemental harvest from them. And we know it's good produce and it's going into the refrigerators directly. So just kind of reducing that additional barrier to access in the community. So that's my spiel about what's new and what's going on. We have, through our church, we have a couple of volunteer groups who come on Saturdays to either help with the garden, weeding, watering, planting, and harvesting, and then a second group that helps us fill all the refrigerators. Because now with 5, it takes a little bit more manpower, person power to divide and conquer and fill all 5 fridges. But it's been a great start to the season. The rain that we're getting today and this week is nothing but good for the gardens. It puts a damper on our social plans, but not for our produce. So I'll stop there and see if there's any questions I can answer.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah. I think the last time at our last discussion, you were just opening the 3rd fridge. So to see that we're now almost to the far end of the state is really, really quite amazing. One of the things that we did last year, in addition to helping to stock the fridges, was to organize collections of produce on Sunday mornings at the church. And we're getting ready to do that again this year as our produce is beginning to come in. We don't have a fixed date for that, but we've been saying July. So you are beginning to actually get produce from the gardens that you are stocking into the fridges?
Yes, and it's a little surprising to us as well, but because last year we had such a cold, wet May, and we were very worried about the last frost. And with gardening, you've just got to be prepared for whatever Mother Nature wants to do. So we are actually quite surprised at how well things have started growing and producing this quickly. So it's a little early for us as well. So it's exciting, but I still think most home gardeners are still anticipating a slower start. At my home garden, nothing is really ready yet. I have started peas. I've started to see blossoms there, and some of the leafy greens are ready, but everything else is taking its sweet time to produce fruits and vegetables.
You indicated that you need assistance when you are filling the fridges, now that you are everywhere, all over the place. Can you tell us when you're doing that, on a chance that we might be able to help round up some volunteers with that piece of it?
Sure. At this point, we're doing everything on Saturday mornings. And we usually arrive to the produce spot around 11, and that's right when they open. And so we'll go in and pick everything that we need to pick to stock our baskets and our buckets. And then usually by 11:30 or 11:45, we're dispersing the volunteers to the different community fridges.
Okay.
Sarah, specifically, where are the 5 fridges that are in the city?
That was my question too.
Excellent. So you're very familiar with the first 2. We started with Kingswood Community Center, expanded to the Teen Warehouse, which is just around the corner. The third one we opened was at Henrietta Johnson Medical Center in Southbridge. The fourth was at the Central Y in the city, and that the leader of that YMCA had reached out to us and said, I've got everything ready. I've got partnerships with grocery stores. I'm good to go. I just need your blessing. And by the time we got around, she's like, no, you don't have to do anything. I just want your assistance filling the fridges. And so that was an incredible partnership. So they had a shelter, they had everything they needed. So that was the fourth. And the fifth is at William Hicks Community Center. And then the last one, the sixth one, is down in Dover, and they run fairly independently. There's a partnership between Westside Health and Ubuntu, which is a service organization in the area. So Gifty, who's from Ubuntu, handles a lot of the filling, and we've supported them by writing checks for when they're struggling to fill that refrigerator. And then Westside Health is actually working on grants with the government to be able to kind of keep funneling money into that refrigerator program. Oh, you are so right, Eileen. It is the Walnut Street Y, not the Central Y.
That was my question too, Sarah. But is it the Central Y and Walnut are 2 different locations? So where are the gardens? They have a garden at the Walnut Street Y?
No, there are no gardens attached to most of these community centers and refrigerators.
Mm-hmm.
So the 50 beds that we maintain are behind the Kingswood Community Center, and then around the corner by the Howard Young prison,
Gotcha.
correctional facility.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
I saw something pop up on my phone here recently that talked about 302 food rescue. Are you familiar with that?
We are. It's run through the food bank, and we've had a few conversations with them because it's certainly there's 2 aspects to it. One is we'd like to become an official partner of the food bank so that we can get major donations to keep the fridges continuously supplied, because if we're only filling once a week, that's 5-6 days that the fridges are mostly empty. So we're working on a partnership that way. And also a goal is to get on their 302 food rescue distribution list, so that if Acme throws out a pickup, and I've downloaded the app, I haven't yet done a pickup, but I want to test it out myself, because if Acme throws up a thing that says we have food rescue items, come at this time, and someone can, and the food bank is coordinating the pickup and the drop off, why can't they just drop off directly to the refrigerators? They're out in the open in a public space, so there doesn't need to be a single person to receive the items. It can go directly into the refrigerator. So we are working on it, Sue. It's any prayers, any prayers or special connections that you might have to people at the food bank, feel free to send us positive vibes, because it's something we'd like to get taken care of by the end of the year.
Yeah, Roger, before I go to you, or before Casey goes to you, 302 Food Rescue, you download the app on your phone, and basically they are looking to expand their network both of donors and recipients. as much as possible. But you can go in and say, I'm available for weekly pickup drop-offs. Send me a message, and actually you give them your location, and you can go to a donor location and they'll load the food into your vehicle, and then you take it to the recipient location. And these are food items that would otherwise be discarded. And I am reminded, for Westminster people, years ago, Helen Walker was a huge proponent of picking up the foods that Panera was throwing out when it closed every night. And at the time we were doing a fresh produce distribution at Westminster. And so she would go pick up and bring all of the breads and the Danish and the muffins and everything that would otherwise have gone into the trash. And so this 302 Food Rescue is looking to identify people who will be throwing food away and working with the food bank to deliver it to places that could utilize it. And you can download the 302 Food Rescue app on your phone, sign up to say you'd be willing to be a courier, as it were. So yeah, anything that we could do to help make planning to feed and the refrigerator as part of that process would be wonderful. It seems like a simple enough thing to do, drive to point A, pick up food, deliver it to point B, and people who are hungry get to eat. So download the app, and we'll see what we can do to help expand the network. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great interjection. Roger?
Oh, my question was, let me get my video back. I don't know what I have.
Well, it's because you're off in Provence or somewhere.
Okay.
Oh, there he is.
I think my question was along the same lines. I mean, food waste overall in the chain is somewhere around 33%, or a third of all food is wasted. And I guess it's all parts of the supply chain, from produce left in the field, damaged in shipping, improperly shipped, not refrigerated, left in grocery stores, et cetera, et cetera. So of all the points in the chain for food, where are there opportunities to pick up other spots in the food chain? I mean, we're looking at grocery stores, I presume, that as Sue just said, that at the end of the day, they say, oh, well, there's damaged produce, or we'll throw it in the dumpster. Or maybe they have a better way of getting, I mean, I don't know, I look at Wegmans, all that produce, or an Acme, and all that produce, and certainly there's some of it that's damaged, and it's just going to sit there. I suspect it's thrown out. So there's one bad tomato in a basket of tomatoes. Nobody's going to pick that basket of tomatoes because they don't want the damaged tomato. And the other 5 that are not damaged are tossed. So I don't know what the opportunities are. I'm rambling a bit, but I just wonder if all the points in the supply chain, we can find other points in the supply chain.
So it's a really good point, Roger. And there are farmers who are aware of what we do, and if they have extra harvest or things that they're not selling in their own farm markets, they will do drop-offs to our refrigerators. So that's one point. I also I work at the University of Delaware, and we have a student group who does like food capture, food rescue with some of the restaurants on Main Street. So Chipotle, at the end of the day, whatever they have left over, they'll package up, and it goes to the UD community pantry. And I mentioned the woman at the Walnut Street Y. That's one of the things. She's got a partnership with Wawa. So Wawa will donate a lot of their extra foods at the end of each day or at the end of each week. The potential partner on Market Street in Wilmington runs the is it the juice, the something box, juice box. Anyway, he does a lot of smoothies, and so lots and lots of produce that with his order, he would have leftover at the end of the week that he would fill the refrigerators with. So, so yes, there's a lot of touch points, and mostly it's just getting the word out. And there are some concerns about food safety and how long things have sat out, or so we're certainly not wanting anything to go into the refrigerators that's harmful, but Delaware does have a Good Samaritan law, so anything that does go into the refrigerators, we're not liable, the donors are not liable for what happens after that point. So I agree, the more donations we can get, the better.
Norman? You'll need to unmute yourself.
Okay, good night.
Technology.
Yes. I guess I didn't press the button enough. Epworth runs a food rescue plan, and they go out to farmers, the various box stores, the big food stores, and they bring the food back to Epworth. And the first thing that happens to it, they got a couple very rigid people. They go through every piece of food. If it doesn't meet the standards they want, it will not go in the refrigerator, it will be sent to farms so animals can eat it.
Mm-hmm.
And the refrigerators, Judy, what do you think? I think both, they're on the cap right next to the kitchen. I think each one of them is by about 15 feet by about 6 feet. One's a freezer, one's a refrigerator, and they fill it. And they use that food for the student dinners, which I talked about. But there's a team of people from Epworth who will take the food and distribute it throughout Sussex County.
Mm.
And my guess is, I have a phone call to a friend of mine, the amount of food rescue they have would be measured in tons.
Wow.
And they've done it for many, many years.
Hmm.
People can come to the church and pick up food as well. And then we also ask for members of the church to go out and donate food that they buy, because maybe it isn't part that was rescued, but it's needed. So we have a list right in the church saying, this is what we need this week. Cereal, this and that. So it's a pretty big program, and it's run by the congregation.
That's great.
Similar to what we're trying to organize at Westminster, although the scale is obviously different than ours, is relatively small right now, but the concept is. Sandy?
I just had an idea that popped into mind, and that is the farmers markets. There are a number of them this time of the year, and it'd be nice if there was a representative who could kind of search the various vendors and see if they could gather what didn't get sold that day or that weekend. So I just thought of that as an idea.
Absolutely. I think about that all the time. The one down in Bear has so many vendors, and they're mostly local because it's not difficult for the southern farmers to come up.
Right.
The one at Carousel Park by me tends to attract more of the Amish coming down from Pennsylvania. So whatever doesn't get sold here, they're using in other ways, but it's still worth the conversation to have with all the different vendors. And, if they're not, maybe it's an end of the week thing. And if you come to the Friday version of the farmer's market at the end, they can donate what's left over. So it's a good lead.
Also, you've got the one up on Route 9 and Booth Corners up in Pennsylvania.
That's right. Yep.
Sue?
Yeah, me? Oh, Sue.
Go ahead, Susan.
So, Sarah, I'm really fascinated with your leadership and the collaboration that you represent. in all of this. But my sister for many years, Becky Arnold, has been running the Hanover Food Pantry many, many years. It's an amazing service to the community. And lately there has been a lot, the numbers go up and down. There are times when they're every Thursday morning, that's where they are. And they go like Giant has been very wonderful. And she and Tim have gone and collected the food, the baked goods, especially. So just tons of things from there that they are that fit this program that we're talking about right now. They're looking for people who can use what they did not sell and can't sell because the time of the date on it and everything. So it's amazing to me what they do. And St. Stephen's has a wonderful food pantry operation too. So there's a lot going on in our community that is related to providing food and making it available in different locations for those who appreciate being able to access these things. So I really do admire what you are doing and making sure that, and what goes on at St. Stephen's in Hanover, and we are as a church have been for years very supportive of Hanover and Lutheran Community Services as well. So it's a wonderful thing that you do. Thank you.
I really appreciate that. And when I think of the scope, we started with just 2 small garden beds and donating extra produce from our home gardens, and we have grown over the last 6 or 7 years, but we're still a small operation that's run by volunteers, but we know we're making a difference. And we know that our impact is felt because we're picking up steam and we're getting more partners on board. And it's really the fact that there are so many small organizations working together to do what they can, especially now with the cost of food skyrocketing and the reduction in welfare assistance, and there's just a lot going on that makes our service even more important to the communities.
Okay, Sue Linderman.
Yeah, I think that Hurricane Ida had a huge impact on the area by the warehouse. There was a grocery store there that I don't think has reopened since the storm. It's very difficult to get supermarkets, particularly chains, to go into areas that they consider to be not enormously profitable. And so the food deserts, as they're described, are really difficult, and particularly for people who rely on public transportation that don't have a car. I mean, none of us think about that. I've run down to the Acme more often than I should. But the fact that these fridges are filled with fresh food and it's available right there, within walking distance in many instances, is of incredible benefit. I had an experience last year because I was one of the people that took donated produce from Westminster on a Sunday morning down to the fridge at the warehouse. And I had put it all into the fridge and was getting back in my car, getting ready to leave, when an older gentleman walked up to the fridge and opened the door. And I'm not going to remember exactly, but it seems to me that he took 2 apples and a small container of strawberries. And I said, "Good morning." And he said, "Good morning." And I said something like, "Have a nice day." He said, "Now I will." There are people who say, "Gosh, you say free food for all. Aren't people just going to come like take tons of stuff?" He took what he needed that day. And he left the rest for others in the community who had needs as well. And it was a very moving experience. So there's that. One of the things that I did last summer was that on Saturday afternoons, I would go to the Aldi on Kirkwood Highway, and I would spend $20 on produce, and then I would take it into the church on Sunday mornings, and you can get a lot for $20 at Aldi. I think I have two questions about that. Are there particular things that are most needed or most desirable in that regard? And number two, do you know, has anybody been in touch with Aldi to say, what do you do with all this produce that's left at the end of the day, or the end of the week or whatever, that's reaching the end of its productive life? And is there a way for us to gather that up and bring it to the fridges?
Yeah, I don't believe we've reached out to Aldi at this point, but it's certainly a good lead. I know there's a produce junction not far, and the costs there are really low as well. And they've actually told us we could order wholesale from them. And Jess and I, we talk about, the bang for your buck versus spending the money in wise ways. And so supporting the women, it's a Black owned women business, the produce spot. And so supporting those women who do want to put a place to get fresh produce and smoothies and smoothie bowls right in the heart of the community. We know that it's not like, okay, it might cost us a little bit more to shop there, not by much. And we know that it's just as impactful to support that business so it stays in the community. But if Aldi's willing to donate, I'm willing to pick up. As far as what is most requested or needed, it really varies by community. Kale is something I never thought I'd see people want and crave, even though I love kale. And at the Henrietta Johnson fridge in Southbridge, that's something that's requested. Fruit is always requested, especially berries. And we'll have blackberries and blueberries at the gardens soon, but we can't grow apples and oranges and the likes of that. Mushrooms at the Kingswood fridge, we definitely had a gentleman one day who was very excited to see mushrooms in that fridge. And the staples are absolutely always taken. So we're seeing the carrots, the potatoes, the onions. Let's see, what else are big ones? Peppers, zucchini goes. But, the other thing that we just have to be thoughtful of is how it's presented. So, carrots pulled from the ground, they still look like carrots. So even, we make sure that they're clean and they're not super dirty, and we can put them in the fridge just like that. But there are other things that, if we pull out a beet and we put it in the fridge with greens still attached, they're hesitant about that because it's less familiar. And it's like, well, what am I going to do with all the greens? So we separate the greens from the root so they can be used in two different ways. So people who want the greens and might cook them down like kale or like collard greens can do that. And people who are very interested in the beet can just take the beet. So like I said, we're learning about each community that the refrigerator is and trying to tailor things instead of just being like, okay, we're going to have 60 peppers, so divide it 5 ways. And we're trying to be a little bit more intentional about what is going to go. Again, the Walnut Street Y, the clients there are less likely to, they're more likely to be homeless than some of the other communities. So giving them things that can be eaten right away, fruit, think vegetables that can be eaten raw, those are more effective there than something like a potato that has to be cooked down to be edible. So it's been interesting to kind of negotiate the different fridges and what we want, how we can best support each individual identity.
We know, when you mentioned that, I think every time I took produce to the warehouse fridge, there were potatoes left in the refrigerator. So I'm like, apparently people in that community are not like big fans of potatoes, so I didn't bring any more potatoes to that fridge. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. It was interesting.
When there was one day I was filling the Teen Warehouse fridge and I had all sorts of apples and pears, and a woman came up asking if there were any oranges, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, not today. I'm like, but we have apples and pears, and she's like, I don't have teeth, so I can't chew the apples and pears, which is why I like soft things. And I was like, that's good to remember. So making sure that we have a variety so that everyone can find something that fits their needs.
Thanks.
Sandy?
I have a thought that came up. So you want things to appear clean, but a lot of things, if you wash them, they're going to spoil more quickly. So, but somebody who's homeless maybe can't wash them. So what is the protocol on, like, for apples and?
Yeah, I think for us, it's more about the appearance. So we're making sure to shake off any dirt, you know, apples, things like that we're putting into the fridge. We're not washing ahead of time, because you're right, it does diminish the shelf life. But we're also finding that the fridges are emptied out so quickly that we're less concerned about shelf life. But I've definitely seen it with some of the fresh produce. If it's left there too long, it definitely cuts down. So, you know, that's one of the things. So like if you pull a turnip from the ground and you leave the greens on, it's going to last longer. If you separate it from the greens, it might not. But is it going to be taken in 2 days instead of 4? And then it's better for the community anyway. So I don't know that we have a protocol. It's more just making sure that we keep the fridges looking as clean as possible, so that anything we put in, you know, weekly, we're wiping everything out so that it still maintains a look of cleanliness.
Yeah.
And I've been astonished when I'm there on Sunday midday that the refrigerators are largely empty by then. So if they've been filled up on Saturday, by Sunday, much of what was there, I'm assuming, has been used by people in the community. So I suspect things that are popular don't sit there very long.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's when you know you're having a real impact, actually, when the food is going out. I've had the same experience on Sundays, when there's very little there. But that just means that we're having a real impact there in people getting the things they need. The story that Sue tells about the gentleman she met is consistent with what Jessica told us about the behavior of people who use the fridges, is they really do take what they need and leave the rest for someone else. And it's remarkable to see that sort of symmetry, if you will, work out in neighborhoods where the fridges are. Sarah, tell us something about your own personal story in getting involved in this work. How did you arrive here?
There's so many directions I could go. So I moved to Delaware from Buffalo, New York, about 11 years ago. And I met Jess through the journey, but I've always been an avid gardener because I've been a vegetarian a very long time and grew up in a semi-rural area. So we always had vegetable gardens in my neighborhood, and whatever the neighbor grew, we'd go and harvest, because he would just have crazy zucchini fields. So I remember one summer just making many loaves of zucchini bread, and we had a bunch of apple trees. So we made apple sauce, apple butter, apple pie, apple cake. So the agriculture side of it has definitely been part of my story. And when I met Jess in that initial J group where she was like, I'm a home gardener and we started this thing behind the church, I was a little surprised. I didn't know what I was getting into. I thought it was just a group around the love of gardening. And when I saw what she was trying to do, and remember, we started without refrigerators, we started providing meals in the Kingswood Community Center. And cooking is a passion of mine. So I knew that I could manage a kitchen and scale what our meals were from an idea or a small recipe to feed more people, hundreds of people. That kind of hooked me. And then Jess and I became really good friends, and I believed in the mission. And when it became a nonprofit, I was eager to jump on the board. She likes to say that I'm the string to her balloon. She has really lofty ideas and ambitions and goals. And I'm the one who's like, but wait, let's tether you to the ground and see if this is realistic. And we usually meet somewhere in the middle and it works out. And I've learned so much about faith and direction and outreach and belief in the goodness of people from Jess. And I think I've provided a little bit of the reality and also the logistic side of things. That's definitely more my personality. So planning out a garden and making sure that we know what complements each other and what crops should be rotated year to year. And if this was successful or if this wasn't, are we going to do it again? And so when I think of my role in Planting to Feed, it's a little bit of a stubborn person. It's a little bit of the grounding anchor, but I'm elevated so much more because of being part of this group. And I'm such a better person for knowing Jess Westcott. And together, I think we're a dream team, and there are others on the board who make significant contributions to what we do. And like so many other statements, it takes a village. It takes a village to make what we do work, and it has to start somewhere. So it starts with the core of us on the board. And I would absolutely do anything for Jess. And she says she's only going to be out for 1 to 2 weeks on maternity leave, and I think it'll be 1 to 2 months. But I'm ready. I'm ready for that baby, and I'm ready to step in and pick up any of the things that she has to set aside for a while. But, I also don't doubt her. I doubt her a little bit. I want her to take as much time as she wants. There's my string. And she's like, no, I'll be back in 1 to 2 weeks. So we'll see where we land with that.
That's a remarkable story of faith and giving, which is so important to all of the things who are a part, that people who are a part of this group are interested. And we are looking to get down to the gardens again to see if, I'm not a gardener, and I just have to be frank with you. The produce I bring to church, I buy a giant garden in my backyard, and if I did, I wouldn't know how to grow anything. I'd probably make it all die. But we were so impressed when we went down and saw the garden to see all of the things that were growing there, the work that they went into making it happen, and so on. And we endeavor to get a group of volunteers who will come down and help on Saturdays. That hasn't really come together yet, but it's not because we haven't tried. And we're still hopeful that we will make some progress on that.
Well, definitely mid to late July, early August, and into the fall will be growing abundantly. And that anytime starting in mid-July would be a great time to visit. We're there every Saturday at 9 a.m. And we're there from like 9 to 10:30 or 11, and then we leave to fill the refrigerators. But you know, it's bring your sunscreen. It's always very, very sunny in Kingswood, and we would love to have you and show you around.
Okay.
One of the things we talk about are ways to get the youth in our church involved. So who knows? We have a group called 180. I actually don't know where that name came from, but it's taken hold. But maybe that group of maybe Sandy knows, middle and
It's
senior.
it's called 180 because they were saying they made a 180-degree turn from
Exactly.
the way they used to do youth groups. Is that correct,
Ah.
Susan?
I think that's basically correct.
Basic.
Yeah. Not because there was anything wrong with the way it was done, but it was time to think out of the box that we've been very comfortable with. And 180 was a term developed by our music director, then Mary Beth Davis, and Susan Mosley, our CE director. And so it was perfect. It is thinking out of the box and going in a different direction, which was 180 degrees from what it was before. Yeah.
So this might
Have-
be a
have you all
wonderful
heard of-
thing.
Have you all
Sorry,
heard
go
of First State Squash?
No.
Squash is a sport. I
Oh,
don't know how to
mhm.
play it.
Oh, I know
Um,
squash. We played squash. Yeah.
Okay, so First State Squash is like a developmental program for
Right.
children,
Mhm.
usually between like 8 and 15. And
Mhm.
they'll book 2 or 3 visits with us in the summer, and so we're used to having kids in the garden. It would be great to
Oh.
have yours as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And so Sue's taking down the dates, I think, because we have our VBS on the last week of July. So it might be a place to at least expose them to what goes on with you all. So I want you to meet my sister, Becky, because she has been dedicated to Hanover Food Pantry for many years. And it's an amazing place for people. And everything you've said tonight applies to that, to them as well, the collaboration. How many people are on your board?
Oh, at the moment, I think we have 5.
5. And they're all volunteer?
Yes. Yes, so
And the paid
Jess is our
staff of the,
president.
Mhm.
I'm the secretary, and the other 3 are members at large. One generally does a lot more with marketing. Alicia does a lot more with education, and she's kind of our in at the food bank because that's her full-time job. And then our other board members in healthcare. So yeah, we try and, you know, discuss quarterly what things are business wise for Planting to Feed, but we usually see each other all once a month at least in the gardens.
So you are employed by the organization? No.
Nope, we are all volunteer.
Oh my gosh. I know about this kind of thing. But that's
Amazing
amazing.
what volunteers can do.
Amazing,
It
yes.
Mhm.
I may have missed this earlier, but just a quick question. The land that the gardens grow on, the property, whose land is that? It's down next to the prison. Is one of
Yes. So that site we actually purchased from the land bank. So it cost us $1. So we own that land outright. The space behind Kingswood is owned by the work group and Reach Riverside. And with the new community center being built and the neighborhood changing in the next 5 years, we're not exactly sure what's happening with that land. In fact, we have a meeting tomorrow morning with some of the Kingswood leadership to just kind of make sure that we're on their radar, and that if they are moving those spaces, that we're part of the plan to do so, or if there's room for the garden and the garden stays, that we're a part of that discussion as well.
I was with a garden club for years that got involved with the Baylor Women's Institute and got in and took the garden concept into the kitchen, and was quite successful, but a much smaller facility. There's being done with the prison itself.
No, we're right up against the fence, and there's a guard shack in their parking lot that's right along that fence line. So they have our number. So if anything weird happens at the garden, they make sure to let us know. But again, the first year when we were still kind of getting started up, we had a little bit of issue with some theft, and then we did have a small shed there that just wind took it. And you mentioned the flooding, that was an issue last year, but overall it's been a resilient site, and the neighbors on that street have been really welcoming and warm.
Yeah, and I wasn't suggesting otherwise. I was actually the opposite, was asking if there's opportunity there
Yes.
at the prison to do anything, but it's an
untapped potential. Yeah, I hear you, and maybe down the line is something we could explore.
Yeah. Interesting idea. Yeah. Hadn't thought of that. And immediately it suggests itself as an opportunity. So, all right. Well, are there any last questions? We're almost at our time.
Yeah, Casey, I just want to tell Sarah this one thing. Incidentally, our VBS this year is called the food truck. The theme is food truck, so it's amazing. I mean, just interesting that this could tie in somehow.
Well, the Lord works in mysterious ways, So there we are. There we are.
All kinds of wonders to bring.
Indeed.
Well, Sarah, thank you very much for coming this evening and sharing your ideas and giving us an update on the expansion of this work. We are delighted to be a part of it, and are looking for ways to intensify our engagement. And we hope that we can arrange to get some volunteers down to the gardens to come and visit, not to kill anything in the garden, but to provide support for this wonderful idea that Westminster contributes to. And we look forward to the additional support from the produce and the church as that gets going.
Thank you so much.
I'll turn it over to Sue, unless there's anything else.
And please give our very best to Jessica and make sure she posts photos.
Absolutely.
And do we know if it's a little boy or a little girl?
It's a little girl.
All right. Wonderful. Well, we wish her all the best with that. That'll be wonderful. Want to let you know that next week we're having a follow-on from a program that we had a while ago, and it has to do with the implementation of House Bill 198 in Delaware. House Bill 198 was the legislation that mandated that more inclusive history be taught in Delaware schools. And so Monica Gant, Dr. Monica Gant of the Department of Education will return to us. She'll be able to share the data from the first semester of the 2022-2023 implementation year, the learnings from that, and the plan going forward. We're still working out the details, but we may have the individual responsible for the implementation of that plan at Red Clay Consolidated School District at the same time to talk about Red Clay's programs for implementing the more inclusive history education for students. So same time, same place next week. We look forward to seeing you. And thank you again, Sarah, so much.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Good night, all.
All right.
Good night.
Bye.